Thank you very much. It is a true pleasure to be here. I was really pleased to receive the invitation, and when I looked at the agenda and the schedule, I was really impressed by the group of speakers, many of whom I knew before I started at USDA. So just really congratulations on this conference. During my time at Rural Development so far, I have been truly impressed to see the commitment led by the Office of Tribal Relations to working across the various agencies and offices at USDA in support of native foodways and food systems. While preparing for today, I reached out to our Rural Development National Native American Coordinator, our Director of Civil Rights, and various program directors, and learned of a number of emerging initiatives that are very well aligned with the priorities of the sponsors here, particularly with the Native American Agriculture Fund. In their invitation, the conference organizers shared the impressive vision presented in last summer's report, Reimagining Native Food Economies. I understand that was discussed yesterday. While preparing for today, I reached out to a number of people who have shared how these priorities are really aligned with what USDA is doing. Next slide, please. So, as I said, the priorities that you all have discussed are really aligned with much of those at USDA. These include things like building rural economies. Obviously, that is a critical need. So many rural economies are oftentimes distressed, not always, but have a set of assets and opportunities that can be built upon to build their economic outlook. Combating climate change is really critical, particularly given that the effects of climate change are not evenly distributed. Improving food security. We want to make sure that people have enough food, that they have healthy food, that they have food that's aligned with their culture and their values. Building fair and resilient agricultural markets. You may have heard about the $4 billion that USDA has in its Build Back Better initiative that's designed to strengthen and transform critical parts of the US food system. Much of that transformation is designed to ensure more just and more fair agricultural markets. And last, certainly not least, though, addressing longstanding inequities in USDA programs. It's no surprise, sadly, that there have been these inequities. I appreciate the honesty with which the Secretary has talked about those and the efforts that are happening to address that. That work continues. Our actions in support of these priorities are informed by the kinds of well-considered policy and funding recommendations that are presented in the report, Reimagining Food Economies. So we appreciate those, and I've shared that report with my colleagues for that reason. Next slide, please. As noted in the report, Native populations are rural populations. USDA's Rural Development Mission Area is committed to helping improve the economy and quality of life in rural America. This happens through three agencies: the Rural Housing Service, the Rural Utility Service, and the Rural Business Cooperative Service, where I serve as administrator. As a whole, RD, or rural development, is focused on numerous significant information technology, staffing, and program improvements that we know are needed for our 21st century government organization, particularly improvements that facilitate access to capital. For example, our current program portfolio is currently more than twice as large as it was 10 years ago, but our staff is 30% smaller. Our workforce is managing a complex financial portfolio, and in 3 years' time, 1/3 of our expert professionals will be eligible for retirement. In spite of that, we have a strong history of innovation. Rural electrification was implemented through RD programs, and we are working to develop additional support, both in funding and in staffing, to drive similar progress in broadband access and other areas of innovation. For this audience in particular, I think it's important to note that RBCS is the only federal agency, of my understanding, that focuses on cooperatives. And we understand how critical the cooperative business model is to helping communities build and retain wealth. Their resilience was really demonstrated through this pandemic, and it's particularly important now, given the current economic, public health, and other shocks that we are experiencing. In their invitation to me, the organizers asked me to share rural development opportunities that can assist Native farmers, tribes, and communities with the tools needed to develop a thriving agricultural economy that improves the lives of Native people in rural communities. So during my remaining time with you, I want to share several opportunities and actually 2 requests. So next slide, please. These first set of opportunities focus on financial support of cooperatives. So 3 things I want to highlight here. And these, I'm being selective here, and so I'll share at the end a website that lists all of our programs so that you can see all of those if you're interested. But to highlight, to start here, I want to focus first on the Rural Cooperative Development Grant. This is a grant program that is to organizations that help cooperatives grow. And so we have a number of these. I'll show you where you can find a list of those on the next slide. But if you are interested in supporting cooperatives, providing technical assistance to cooperatives to help entities decide whether the cooperative model is right for them, how to structure that cooperative model, provide them technical assistance in that area, the Rural Cooperative Development Grant is maybe an opportunity that is a good fit. The Rural Economic Development Loan and Grant Program. This is an interesting model because it is administered through rural electric cooperatives. Those cooperatives can apply for funding that they then can provide in loans to a variety of entities. And so that cooperative, rural electric cooperative is the vehicle through which these funds are delivered to their community. So again, if there's a rural electric cooperative in your area, or in the area where you're wanting to do some work, they may be a good fit for reaching out and applying for this program for funds that could be delivered throughout the community. And then last in this area is the Socially Disadvantaged Group Grant. In this case, the cooperative development centers funded by the Rural Cooperative Development Grant that I mentioned earlier, and cooperatives themselves are eligible to apply. And this funding can be used for feasibility studies, business plans, strategic planning, leadership training, a variety of those kinds of things. And I think what's important here is these businesses do not have to just be producers or agriculture related. They can be a wide variety of businesses. So, the marketing impacts, the transportation, those kinds of things that might be important to food systems as well. Those cooperative businesses can apply for support through the Socially Disadvantaged Groups Grant. Next slide, please. So, again, retaining the focus on cooperatives, technical assistance is a key driver. Sometimes you need money, but sometimes you also need information and technical assistance. And I mentioned the Rural Cooperative Development Grant before, and that funds these cooperative development centers. And you'll see listed there a link that has a list of all those cooperative development centers across the country that are funded by this program. And so I encourage you to take advantage of those. And if you see a gap that could be filled, perhaps apply for that grant to help begin one. In addition to those indirect provision of technical support and technical services, technical assistance, the cooperative service branch at Rural Business Cooperative Service also provides direct technical assistance. So we have staff who are really expert in cooperatives, and they are doing work, for example, right now with meat processors and helping them think through how to set up their processing organizations as cooperatives and what that might mean for them, how they can move that forward. They're also thinking about cooperatives broadly in terms of home health and daycare, and thinking about how to help businesses transition from another business model to a cooperative business model when that transition is wanted. So I want to point out both of those opportunities for technical assistance in case those are helpful. I've shared these slides with the organizers, and so hopefully they can be made available to you so you don't have to write down all of the notes here. Next slide, please. So, we as RBC, as a Rural Business Cooperative Service, so we of course have programs that are specific to cooperatives. We have also programs that are open to lots of different folks. And so I want to mention a couple of these. So one is this Value Added Producers Grant. This is for producers and producer groups only, but it's not for actual production. It's for the processing and the other kinds of things, the value added activities that come after production. And so just want to share one quick example, again, as I was talking with folks and our team about this upcoming conference and this talk. Someone shared with me an example of what is possible through this. So a few years ago, the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa was interested in the construction of a fish processing facility. They applied for and received a $52,913 value-added producer grant to develop a feasibility study and market analysis to determine if there was consumer demand for value-added fish products like fish fillets, smoked fillets, fish spread, and herring caviar. This study proved successful, and then in 2019, they received a $28,292 Rural Business Development Grant, also from our agency, to develop a business plan to build the facility, which was then completed in 2020. So this project is now open, and it's proving to be a cornerstone for increasing economic prosperity, not just for the tribe, but for the region as well. And so I think that's a nice example of how multiple kinds of funding streams and opportunities can be used together to really create a vision, not create a vision, but to help a vision become reality. A couple other ones I mentioned the Business and Industry Loan Guarantee Program, in part because it's a little bit different and it's actually our largest program. This is a loan guarantee. So people who are interested in that get a loan from a lender. That lender then applies to USDA Rural Development for a guarantee so that decreases their risk. That can make them more willing sometimes to provide capital if they know that their risk of losing their capital is decreased. And so encourage, if there are lenders in this group, CDFIs, this program is open to CDFI loan funds. Sometimes there's some confusion about that. And I will say that's one of the things that we're working on is to try to reduce that confusion, because we want people to know, particularly CDFIs, to know that they are eligible to participate in the Business and Industry Loan Guarantee Program. And so if there are folks there, we'd love to hear from you and see if you want to be a lender through BNI, through the BNI program, so that, again, that can facilitate access to capital for a variety of business interests. And then last, I mentioned, when I opened, that there were 3 agencies within rural development. And so I've mentioned, you can see here the link to all of our programs. In addition to the Rural Business Cooperative Service, of course, there's Rural Housing Service and the Rural Utility Service. And those are critical, can provide important tools as well for folks to help achieve what they are looking for. So as I'm closing, next slide, please. I want to close with just a couple of requests. So we are in the process now. I mentioned the Build Back Better initiative that is providing $4 billion of support to improve critical food supply chains throughout the country. As part of that, we have currently opened right now a request for information on meat and poultry processing. This request is open until August 30th, so there's still time to respond. We encourage you to go to federalregister.gov and search 2021/15145. And there you can find all the questions that we're asking folks to respond to. This information that we're getting from you all will be helpful in us designing the program. So there's about $500 million of that's specifically related to the food supply chains, and quite a bit of focus in there on meat and poultry processing. And so we want to design those programs in ways that are responsive to what people's actual needs are, what their goals are, what their financial gaps might be. And so we very much welcome your responses to this RFI. Again, it's opened until August 30th. So we've been in touch with various cooperatives, with Intertribal Buffalo Council and others around this, and want to encourage others, of course, to participate in this as well. I also listed here the link for the state offices at Rural Development. These are really the gateway to all of our RD programs. So encourage you to visit those if you're not already familiar with them. You probably are, and get connected with those folks. They can be really very helpful in identifying all of the different kinds of opportunities for funding and technical assistance and such that might be helpful for the work that you're planning. Next slide, please. And so finally, my final request is that you stay in touch, as we will do with you all. We very much encourage you to share your recommendations, your thoughts, your requests, just like you did in that wonderful paper. I mentioned at the start that we have a long-standing commitment and a serious commitment to addressing these inequities, the inequities particularly at USDA that have been in existence for quite some time. We want to build a rural development, build a Department of Agriculture that really and truly works for everyone. Your input is truly vital to that. And so I would ask you, please reach out, please tell us what works, what doesn't work, what your needs are, what your goals are, what your vision is. We are here to serve. And so we look forward to hearing more from you. I really very much appreciate this opportunity to speak with you today. We are truly interested in working more closely with new and existing partners. And so I look forward to staying in touch. Thanks so much to each of you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.